Welcome to the session I was going to do on live, but I've decided to pre-record it because work has beckoned and unfortunately I've got to go elsewhere this evening. However, we're going to tackle this issue. It's very prevalent today, and specifically in Milton Keynes where I'm based, simply for the fact that we've had so many unfortunate sort of loss of life this year. So, as anyone who knows me will tell you that I've been working with young people carrying these particular weapons for many years, and I've done a lot of work with gangs, lots of work with various different charities over the last few years. The most noticeable one, MUMA, which is Mothers Against Murder and Aggression. They were a fantastic organisation that support hundreds of families of whom have lost young people to either knife or gun crime. So I urge you to check them out. They're a great organisation. So my role really with them was actually just to sort of intercept some of these young people and provide an educational solution. So for me, it was really about assessing and avoiding the situation, which is why on my new app, which is a skillsing app you can download free from Apple and Google stores, it gives you a program called the Life Skills Anti-Bullying course. And within that course there is a module, and I'm going to cover some of that material from that module now. And the module is called Assess and Avoid a Potentially Dangerous Situation Involving an Edge Weapon. Now this is really relevant in today's age, and it doesn't matter where you live. There seems to be kids everywhere, for whatever reason, carrying weapons. Now the most common thing said to me, specifically by members of so-called gangs, is I carry a weapon to keep me safe. And ironically, if you look at the stats, most people that carry weapons are the ones that are having it used against them. So actually it's not doing them any good whatsoever. The other thing is to realise that we have a big cultural mix in this country, and that cultural mix basically means we're going to get lots of people from different cultures who have a different approach to either carrying knives or the way that they use knives in their own culture. And I refer to some of the lads that I've worked with in recent years who come from various parts of the country, various parts of the world, my apologies, where they use knives for everyday activities, whether it's fishing or just basic sort of getting from day to day. So they've been brought up culturally carrying these things. Of course, in the UK, we don't. So we're going to put all these mixes into one little mixing pot called the UK. We're never really going to get problems. Anyway, that's the political side gone. Let's just get to the core stuff of this. Now, weapons come in all shapes and sizes, and for the sake of this little presentation, we're going to call this an edge weapon. Obviously, it's in the title, it's edged, and it can be used as a weapon. But listen, every household around the country has these in their drawer. We eat with them and we prepare food with them, and we do various other tasks with them. So a weapon on its own isn't a particular threat. It's when it becomes in the hand of what we can only describe as a knob, right? Someone who wants to use it for sinister reasons. And they come in all different shapes and they come in all different sizes. Now, in my experience, someone who carries a weapon this big, yeah, and around their person, actually not only is there showing an intent, but actually it's quite difficult to mask that, isn't it, in any activity, especially the way that young people walk and wear clothing, right? If his trousers are halfway down his bum, like most teenagers do, and he's got one of those sticking out the back of it, you'd probably notice it. So we know actually the more relevant knife is a shorter knife, a blade that's around 3 inches or a little bit lower. We also know that a lot of folder knives are used. That's when the knife is going to be folded and put into the pocket and it can flick out. So with that, all we need to do, and what that module mainly does within the program, the life skills program within the app, is it just tackles where the kids hide knives. So this is the assess bit. So before we're going to do this, I'm just going to talk about something called the pre-fight scenario. Pre-fight scenario is real simple. Me and another individual, or individuals in today's current age, are having some kind of verbal altercation. Now, if you're male, doesn't matter, regardless what age you are, we know that from sort of 13, 14, alpha male kicks in, and we're going to stick our chest out, and we've got a sort of a status to uphold. Now, whether that's a status because of our peers and what we've grown up around, or whether that's just our own belief system, we're going to stick our chest out, and we're going to make ourselves very vulnerable. And young people do this all the time. Now, I'm specifically speaking about young men, but actually women do exactly the same, but this on a smaller scale. Now, with young men, because they're sticking their chest out and they're actually fronting the conversation, not only are they missing the opportunity to see what's going on with the other person's hands, like I'm doing here, but they're actually exposing themselves to potential threats. For example, if I stick my chest out, what am I making more prominent for a weapon attack? If I'm sticking my head up and what am I exposing around these areas in order for someone to attack me. If I'm sticking my hands up and I'm very animated, what am I showing people? I'm showing them arteries. So the key to assessing is to actually, number one, assess from distance. If I see an individual or individuals, because again, nowadays, young people ain't dealing with what I used to deal with when I was a kid, one-on-one, little scrap, had a little bit of fun, moved on. Now it's 1 against 5, 1 against 7, because, you know, kids nowadays are real heroes, they work in packs. Now the reality is, if I'm doing that assessment from a distance, I want to see where the hands are of the people that are arguing with me. Are they in their pockets? We'll come to that in a minute. Are they shoved inside the hand of their jacket? Are they actually just held within the sleeve of their jacket? Maybe they've got a long arm sleeve on and you can't see the hands. That's my first assessment point. I want to see, is there a weapon in their hands at the point? And if I can't see the hands, I have to assume there is. The second thing is what's their body positioning? Now, there are hundreds, thousands, millions of self-defense guys out there will go, someone's going to put a stance up, someone's going to just be glary, someone's going to have their hands in their pocket, some people are going to spit at you, some people are going to run at you, some people... No one knows. And in fact, we're all different. That's the wonderful thing about human beings from a nice perspective, but in a self-defense scenario, it's actually quite disturbing. We're all different. We do know this. Young men, specifically between the ages of 12 and 19, 20, are very animated with their voice, very animated with their body language. They haven't got enough core life skills yet to hide certain things. So we do know if we can't see their hands, there is a real potential problem. We also know that their body language will suggest they're either moving into a position where they're ready to attack, or more importantly, they're ready to be prepared to be supported by all of their body of friends, their 3s and their 4s and their 5s. We know that what comes out of their mouth could potentially be a threat. It's this all talk, but actually can be backed up now, and that's what the stats are showing us at the moment. I mean, in recent 2 weeks, I think we've had 2 young lads that have just lost their lives just in Milton Keynes alone from knife crime, and over the last couple of months, it probably goes into double figures. So it's a real big issue. So the assessment point is to say, where are the hands? Can you see the hands? More importantly, what is their body language doing? What are they saying to you? And how many people are there? I've been teaching this stuff for 30 plus years, and I'll promise you, the person you can see is not the threat. The person you can't see is quite often the threat. So if you're in a darkened alley or in a sort of an estate somewhere sitting on a corner like these kids do, and there's 4 or 5 lads there and a couple of them got hoodies on, it's the ones that I can't directly engage with are the ones that's worrying me. The ones I've got eye contact with and I can see some of their movement, they're the ones I've got control of to a degree. But the ones I can't see are the ones that scare me. So my assessment skills have to be much greater than just me having an argument with you. It's got to be about you, your friend, and then if I just go a 360 and I start to, oh, there's one over there, and there's one over, and all of a sudden it becomes a much bigger assessment process. So I can't assess when I'm this close to an individual. And the reason why I say that is because every single person on this planet, male or female, get into an altercation verbally, and we naturally, by default, in our Neanderthalic brain go, oh, I'm going to step me nice and close and I'm going to make a threat from this distance. Now, the problem with that is actually I'm close enough now for if there was a weapon to be involved for me to sort of get injured or seriously sort of go to a worse scenario and not come out of the situation. So the key is this, my assessment needs to be done at distance and it has to be done fast. Now, the avoid part of it is just move. Keeping with the assessment, I'm just going to go through a couple of places which I know statistically, because I've worked with a lot of gangs and hundreds of kids who carry these things, where they're hidden. First things first, we've got trouser pockets. If it's a folder knife, it's going to be in a trouser pocket. That's pretty simple. So I can't see the hand because it's in the trouser pocket. I'm just going to question, why has he got his hand in the trouser pocket while he's calling me all the names under the sun and said he's going to stab me? Might be a sort of red herring there, right? It could be in the front of his trousers he's got it placed. Now, if it's a blade that's fixed like that, i.e. it's just from a kitchen drawer, the chances are that's going to be a bit dangerous for him. If it's something that size, well, he's going to give himself a circumcision. So the reality is it's probably not going to be down the front of his pants, but it could be around the back. It could be underneath a jumper or a jacket. It could be, and I've seen this many times, inside a jacket. So it might be an inside jacket pocket. It might be up his sleeves. Do you know that the Filipinos and martial arts styles around the world, but this specifically talking about the Philippines at the moment, they've developed martial arts styles where people have weapons and they're strapped to the inside of their wrist. So the blade is actually giving them free hand usage, but actually the ability to cause some serious damage and kill people with just the inside of their wrist. Scary thought. So we know that young people are doing all of these things. They're doing the research. You know that little thing called Google and the internet? Yeah, they go onto interweb and they go, whoa, look at that technique. That's a great one. Which is why we get so many knobs, yeah, young ones specifically going, oh, I'm going to film myself carrying a weapon and doing all these things that they're seeing and obviously incriminating themselves. So we've got to look at the hands. Where are the hands? Now, bear in mind what I've just said. If you can't see the hand, you can't see the weapon. You might be able to see the hand, but you might not be able to see the blade. So I might have my hands like this, but I could still have something strapped to the inside. So hands are everything. In order for me to carry the edge weapon, I need a hand. Now, there will be someone that looks at this video and goes, you don't, mate. I've got a technique that can do that. I've got one that comes out the bottom of my shoe. Ching! Yeah, like in one of the movies you've seen in the last 20 years. But I'm talking about mainstream. Most kids carry these weapons. Now, let's go back to the big weapon. The big weapon is more likely to be inside a pocket, or it's going to be somewhere where there's a little bit of room for it to maneuver around. So the chances of someone confronting a young person with something that big is not as statistically proven as it is a smaller weapon. It's the smaller weapons, they're harder to see, they're easy to use, they're faster to manipulate, and actually more importantly, yeah, they're really difficult to get away from if you're too close. So I urge you parents, if you've got young teenage boys, teenage girls, and we do know that girls carry a lot of weapons for their boyfriends. That's like a gang thing, yeah, because the guys are going to get called up by the police, and historically the girls are carrying the weapons for the guys, and the police are catching on to that year on year. But the reality is, if you're a parent of one of these kids and you don't want them to become a victim to knife crime, first of all, teach them assess. Assess, can they see the hands? Assess from distance. Don't do their natural urge of getting into alpha male, walking up to somebody and getting to a distance where they're so close that actually one of these becomes a real threat to their life. Next thing is the assessment of what's called a group dynamic. How many are there? What can they not see? It's all about the assessment skills, which I talk more about in the Life Skills Anti-Bullying Program on the app Skillsing, or if you're doing it online, skillsing.co. So the reality is the assessment part is what we as parents can educate our kids in. We can also educate them in this. Now I realise if you've got teenage boys or teenage girls, quite often they switch your ears off to you as parents, don't they? They go, I ain't listening to you, you know nothing, I know best. And I haven't got those core life skills, and every single parent I know, including myself, has gone through those frustrating years of going, I want to beat you. I just want to do that to you because you're not listening, and actually their kids know best, and when it all goes wrong, they then come back crying and going, oh yeah, you were right, can you help me out? That's just part of the parenting journey, isn't it? But the reality is we need to teach specifically young men that actually their alpha male, their peacock, their ability to shout their mouth because they think they've got friends around them and getting very close to someone. And as someone said to me not so long ago, a young person, I'm getting in your grill, don't even know what that means, really, really close to my face, yeah, they think they're actually threatening the person, but they're making themselves more vulnerable. The assessment has to be done at distance. The bigger the distance, the safer it is, and the more chance I've got a chance of avoiding the situation. That means running like, getting out of the situation before it becomes a problem. Now, I could teach numerous techniques from arts that I've studied for many, many years, you know, jiu-jitsu, Wing Chun, which I'm passionate about, military combat, and loads of stuff where we do techniques, physical techniques against this. But let's just be honest. If an average person is stabbed just once, where does that come from? If an average person is stabbed 7 times, where did that person come from? Have you ever heard of a frenzied attack? Most of you probably have, and you've seen it on the movies. Well, let me just tell you that a couple of young high-profile cases I've dealt with, one called Ben Kinsella from years ago, was stabbed numerous times in a matter of 4 seconds. Damiola Taylor, his father Richard Taylor, is an inspiration to me, yeah, because of all the work he did post his son being murdered, was stabbed numerous times. In fact, occasionally we hear a case where someone's only been stabbed once and that was enough. Still horrific, But in most cases, when someone is attacked with a weapon, it's either not just one weapon, it's two, and there might be five of them attacking them with weapons, or it's one person in a frenzied assault, which means it's constant and it's fast, and the average attack will be over in a matter of a second or two. So let's just think about that. What physical techniques can we actually do? I mean, we all Jackie Chan and do flying kicks. Are we teaching our kids to disappear in a ninja smoke? Are we teaching our kids to do backflips like Power Rangers? Or are we teaching our kids assess the bloody thing and get away from it before it even becomes a problem for you? Now, I've just got to get back to before I do one more thing with this, because this is easy and it's a part of that program that I deliver through Skillsing app and also through skillsing.co. And that is this: that ego that young men specifically have, but young women have it increasingly more. I'm seeing lots of violent young ladies growing up in recent years, yeah. But those young men, when we're dealing with them as parents, we've got to knock them down. I'm not talking physically knock them down, but we've got to make them appreciate their aggression is unintentionally, naively leaving them into a vulnerable location where they're exposing parts of their body. So as a parent, please tell your kids where their heart is. Tell them all the vulnerable areas of their body. The fact that if they cut an artery, they're going to be in serious trouble. Tell them that actually if they get stabbed under the ears, an artery, yeah, they're in trouble. If they get cut in the inside of the leg, femoral artery, they're in trouble. If they get the end of a blade from their kitchen drawer that you can potentially give them and just put their finger on it like that, it bloody hurts, yeah? So imagine what that's going to be like when it's thrusting with a bit of power. It's going to be painful. It's going to be devastating. And actually, some blades are really sharp here. This one not too sharp, that's why I'm using it in the demonstration. But some blades here could be creating a slicing action. It's too easy. So therefore their ego, unfortunately, has got to be replaced with common sense. Tell me a teenager you know who's got common sense. Actually, I know loads. I've met and trained with and trained thousands of young people that have got loads of common sense. They're very intelligent and they wouldn't put themselves in this bloody situation for love nor money because they've got common sense and intelligence. And yet I equally know loads and loads of people who I've met or I've met their parents because they're no longer with us, who've gone, my young person was intelligent, they had common sense, they were lovely, they did everything for everybody. And I'm sure that's correct in the eyes of their parents because they're telling me that. Why would I disbelieve it? Then you do a bit of digging and then you start seeing that some of the kids that I've dealt with who have been victims to knife crime weren't such an angel after all. But this is a problem that everyone experiences at teenage age. We go, I know the rules and I'm going to expose myself to all the vulnerabilities of a knife attack. So, assess and avoid is exactly what I said. Spot hands, look at body language, assess where they could be hidden. Your job as a parent is to tell your young people, give them a physical experience. Don't talk to them. It's not a birds and bees conversation like we used to have back in the 70s and 80s. Oh, this is what a boy does when the girl does and makes a little baby and the baby does. It's not one of those conversations. This is a life bloody saving conversation. So this is what I do when I'm working with young people. I'll pull out a blade and I'll pull out a little blade. I'll pull out a click blade, a flick knife. I'll pull out a jagged Rambo style blade and I'll go, guys, tell me where they're being hidden. I'm going to give them a physical demonstration. I'm going to talk about their heart rate increasing and how blooming great they are when they're going all egotistical and they think they've got the balls because they're standing in front of someone with four mates in front of them. I'm going to tell them how vulnerable they are when they get just a little bit of this going on. And more importantly, how vulnerable they make themselves when they get in really close to somebody and actually that person has a weapon because they didn't assess them properly. I'm going to show them the worst case scenario. Why? Because I want kids to realise this is a bloody scary situation. And I want them to assess and avoid. And avoid means running. I mean, that's as simple as it is. And it might be running to a safe place. It might be running into an area where they don't actually know whether that's any safer. But it's a damn sight lot better than where they were at the beginning. It's also about coming down with your words. I mean, how many young people do you know, and if you're a parent, you might have kids here, that the language they use is not even a language you even recognise. I mean, I've got 3 adult kids now, but when they were young teenagers, they started coming back with like sick, and this is buff, and this is hench, and I'm like, I better use Google here. I don't even know what that means. I've dealt with enough young people that speak into a language to me that makes no bloody sense to me. So I'm always saying to them, what does that mean in your current world? And quite often some of the language they're using is a threat, and it just bypassing me straight away, because I'm not from their generation. So as parents, you've got to identify with what your kids are saying, how they're speaking, how their body language is being thrown through, because someone might be giving them some pure threat that for me and you, maybe we're a bit older, go, what? And actually, by the time we've worked out what it is, it's all too late. You need to engage with this, parents, and you need to engage with it with your sons and your daughters and their teenagers. And let me tell you, I deal with this. The youngest group of young people I deal with is 7, 8 years of age. Don't you be cursing me. 7 or 8 years old. That's young, isn't it? Why would you do that? Well, because kids carry these weapons from as young as 7 or 8 years of age. It's like porn on the phone. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids have shown me at that age certain things they've got sexting and images from other kids in their classroom from as young as 7, 8, 9 years of age. So why would you not deal with it as a preventative measures? Train the kids when they're really young in something, and not to scare the life out of them, but to scare the bloody life out of them. Tell them, I'm going to tell you some programs, because when you get to teenage years, you might walk into a situation unintentionally or intentionally because you've got your mates behind you and you think you're superhuman, and you need to avoid it. Pre-program them. Preventative measures saves lives. There's no point in teaching them any self-defense technique. I promise you, karate, kung fu, military combat to a degree, the speed of which one person can attack you is 9 times out of 10 greater than what the person defending can deal with. But let's not worry about the one person, because I said it at the beginning, we are dealing with multiple attacks. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people coming at us at one go. How are you going to deal with 4 people? Because that's 2, 4, 6, that's 8 arms. That's potentially 8 weapons. I mean, unless you can disappear and you're a magician, no martial arts is going to help you here. This is all about the non-physical skills. It's about the awareness. It's about the assessing. It's about crapping yourself. It's about removing yourself. And it's about going, thank God, Mum, Dad, I wasn't there, because if I would have been there, that could have been me. So parents, please switch on to this. If we want to see Milton Keynes as a safer place, because the stats are going that way when it comes to knife crime. And listen, you can feed stats as much as you like. I hear some police officers saying, actually, it's sort of going down a little bit. And I hear some organisations saying, no, it's about level. But actually, if it's somebody you know who's lost their life, or more importantly, if you're a parent, yeah, and you're just petrified because your kids hang around in the same estate or the same area, well, all those stats don't mean jack diddly do they? Because bottom line is you don't want your kids to be a victim. So please, parents, spend 5 minutes to this. Teach your kids how to assess where knives are held. Teach them the vulnerabilities of it. Teach them about their alpha male ego-ness. Teach them how they've got to drop it. Assess, avoid, assess, avoid. Listen, I want to do some more on this sort of subject where we can do some physical stuff over the next few weeks and months. Specifically for members of the app. And the app is free to download. It's called Skillsing. And you can download it at the app or Google Play Store. Skill, S-K-I-L-L, S-K-I-L-L-Z-I-N-G, Skillsing, right? It's called Skillsing app. It's free to download. Now, there's a load of free stuff in there, and there's some modularization stuff like this. This video will go onto the YouTube channel. There's a YouTube channel that I've got up that you can link to as well. Equally, you can go onto skillsing.co, and there's some information on there about different programs. As we cover this is going into the Parenting Hub, and you will have free access to all the content in the Parenting Hub, right? As we go on to this, it's really, really relevant that if we're going to step up, as parents, we need to start teaching them some real life skills. Yeah, life skills they don't learn at school or work. Now, I've taught in enough schools, and particularly, I don't like it no more, the policies around schools, school teachers. I mean, there's so much I just particularly don't enjoy in schools. But I've taught in enough schools to recognise this. These kids don't learn some of the core life skills they're going to need when they leave school. And this is a core life skill because it keeps them alive, for me. And actually, we don't learn it in work. I mean, mental health. We're only just addressing it now. It's been a big issue for many, many, many years. So anyway, I'm going on a tangent. Parents, if you're watching this, please do teach your kids how to assess and avoid a potential knife situation. Throughout the summer, we're going to do 1 or 2 events, courtesy and sponsored by Skills in the app. We're going to do them live on social media. I'm also going to do 1 event live, which is going to be in the heart of Milton Keynes. I'll let you know about that over the next probably 4 or 5 weeks or so, once we've confirmed something. And when we do that, we're going to be inviting as many parents, not young people, young people don't want to learn it, parents, to that event. Stay safe. Speak to you soon. Bye.